September 2nd, 2024, and I'm with Mr. John J. Jeckovich, and this is the second segment today of his book, Their Mother's Sons, and now we're on page 480, and Mr. Jeckovich is back home. This chapter is titled, Civilian Life Once Again. What's the passcode, Mr. Jeckovich?
Fine.
What's your dog tag?
420965.
Okay, I'll open it up and start reading Docu-Series 323. Do you want to say anything up to now of the first part I read?
No.
Do you have any comments?
No, go ahead.
You have any comments at all
Huh?
about the book?
No,
I had
no.
many text messages, and they always ask the same thing. Is the book for sale?
No.
Thank you. The book is not for sale. Anyone wants to listen to it?
It's not published. Say it's not published.
Anyone wants to listen to it? I read it every night, chapter to chapter. All right, so here we go. She sat down and opened a loose leaf notebook and started writing on a yellow lined pad inserted in the notebook. For some strange reason, I began engrossed in what she was doing, and she became aware that I was watching her. She smiled pleasantly and asked what I was reading. Before I could answer, she asked another question. Were you going to school? I was surprised at her inquiry and recovered sufficiently to reply that I was not attending any school and was only reading for my personal satisfaction. She smiled again and began talking about some of the recent books she had read. I was acquainted with some she had mentioned, and we remark about them to our mutual agreement. Where was the library located?
On Main Street.
Was it?
Well, there was a small branch library on Forest Road.
Does that exist any longer?
I don't know. The building's probably there. It was a good building.
I wonder if youngsters even use libraries anymore.
Probably not.
Yeah. They have everything in their wizard box, the phone or a laptop. All right, let's see what's happening here. I was acquainted with some that she had mentioned and would remark about them to our mutual agreement. It was not long before we were chatting like two old friends. I felt comfortable talking to her. During the course of our conversations, I discovered that she worked in the same place I did. So just by coincidence.
She worked at the other mill.
She worked at the other mill.
Yeah, she was going to college, the University of Buffalo, and she was on a scholarship to number 2 mill to work with the girls, see how the girls work.
So she worked in the front office.
No, she was going to school.
Well, you said she worked at the same place you worked.
Yeah, but she worked at the other mill. There's 2 mills there.
Okay.
The second mill up Royal Avenue was for Kotex and Kleenex.
Okay, all right. And what was the other mill for?
Paper.
Like glossy paper?
Paper, 100-pound, 50-pound, 60-pound paper.
Okay.
Print on both sides, colored. Revere.
During the course of the conversation, I discovered that she worked in the same place I did, but in the other mill, a short distance away. She was on a student work program from the University of Buffalo, working the summer months as part of her study program. What did she do at the mill?
She worked on the production line for Kleenex. Yeah, they put a regular job. They told her you go through the regular stuff that these people work. These girls do. And she's only there for the summer, then she goes back to school. That was part of her classwork.
I got you. Phyllis was a psychology major in her third year at the university and was interested in industrial relations as a career. I told her I worked in a production department, and for some reason she found that difficult to discern. She fully agreed with my assessment of my fellow workers, found them gross and uninspiring, and did not have much social contact with them. We left the library and drove to a coffee shop. Do you remember the name of that coffee shop?
The White Spot, yeah.
Is that still there?
No.
We drove to a coffee shop where we sat and talked for a while. It was invigorating, our conversation, and I enjoyed myself immensely. She was interesting and stimulating, and we found that we had much in common. She talked to her about her folks in Batavia and how much she missed them these past few months. I listened intently, but again did not reciprocate in talking about myself or my home life. I drove her to a small apartment near the library and asked if I might see her again tomorrow. She agreed, and when I left, I was elated at the prospect of seeing her again and just talking to someone. I went to sleep that night with a new hope and joy in the fact that I had finally found someone I could talk with and be perfectly at ease at her company. It reminded me of my first meeting with Anne or even Jean or Renee. Before I went to sleep that night, I suddenly realized that I never took a real close look at Phyllis, for I could not recall the color of her hair or even her general features. It did not bother me why I would take Phyllis. A movie, a snack, or just drive around. She would always be agreeable and wanted to pay her share, which I refused. All that summer, I was in a state of well-being. I felt good and almost reminded me of my former Army days. What made it even more enjoyable was the fact that conditions at home became more terrible, and they did not have the usual effect on me. One night as we sat in the movies watching the old war movie, my arm around her shoulder holding her hand and our knees touching, I realized how much I missed of this and promised to myself I would not revert to my old self-isolation and regression. We would go later for a hamburger at a drive-in and sit in the car eating and talking. What hamburger joint was this?
What hamburger? What were the hamburger places there? I can't think of any of them.
She was enthusiastic about her schoolwork and could not wait until she graduated and got a real job. I envied her as she talked as much of what she spoke about, and I agreed wholeheartedly and wanted to be the very same for myself. She would ask about my future plans and intimidated that I could not possibly decide to stay there. I agreed with her, but afforded a real plan or even some suggestions of one. She seemed a bit perplexed at my hesitation and stated quite candidly that I'd be foolish to stay where I was. Without realizing what I was doing, I reached over and kissed her fully on the lips. She put her arms around me and held me tightly, breathing softly and saying in a whisper, I knew we were compatible. Now if I could just get you out of that damn place. I looked at her bewildered. I was then that she went into a long, detailed discussion about my future and the obligation. I had to myself and to realize my potential, and I would never forgive myself if I did not. I moved by her concern and regard for my welfare. Something if I had not experienced too much since leaving the service. I agreed with everything she said and what she did not say, for I knew that she was astute enough to read between the lines and the forms of her own objective conclusions. We sat there for some time, mostly talking, but occasionally I'd reach over and kiss her and hold her. She then would start all over again about my reluctance to assert myself and do what was best for me and not worry about everything else. I sensed that she was aware of the dilemma I faced at home, but never approached it directly, only intimidated in indirect fashion. It was hello. Hello. It was after midnight when I returned home and Mother was up waiting for me. She went into a long tirade about how inconsiderate I was and always thinking of myself. How could that be?
Yeah.
Your brothers are always out.
Yeah.
So she waited up for you.
Huh? Yeah.
And she said how
Now
inconsiderate.
see, when Phyllis left for school in Buffalo again, she was gone.
Oh,
She was gone, yeah.
that was it.
That was it, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. With that, we sat there for some more time talking, but occasionally I reach over and kiss her and hold her. It was after midnight when I returned home and Mother was up waiting for me. She went to a long tirade about how inconsiderate I was and only thinking of myself. She did not want another problem like she had with Lookie. I believe the only
I see,
reason...
my father was dead now. My father was gone, yeah.
Yeah.
So she was alone.
Yeah, she did not want to have, you're only thinking of yourself, she said, and she did not want another problem like she had with Lookie. I believe the only reason she did not react more vigorously towards me was the fact that she realized I was not drinking. This was another facet of my home life that I could not come to grips with. The constant cavaliering on Mother's part whenever she felt threatened. So your mother knew you didn't drink.
What?
Your mother knew that you did not drink.
Yeah.
You weren't a drinker, right? I saw Phyllis all that summer until she returned to school in the fall. We made plans of seeing one another during the school time, but it never materialized. I was glad that I met Phyllis even for a short period, and I was thankful for her insight and sincere interest in me. It helped me build my self-esteem and my confidence, and it also afforded me a new approach to my old problem.
15.
See, that one time I told her I went to pick her up at night, we were supposed to go someplace, and she had three of her school buddies, her male buddies there in school. They were going to the same school. And I said, well, I don't belong to this crowd, so I just turned around and left. I'd never seen her before, after that.
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it then, right?
Huh?
You never called her again, right?
No. I said,
Okay.
this is not for me. They're all going to school, going to college. They had their eyes depending on what they wanted to do.
This winter I registered for evening classes at the university and was going 3 nights a week. What made it so difficult was my working shifts, arranging a workable schedule around the constant shifting that it entailed. Mother objected to this routine as of too much time away from home, and she reaped the inconvenience upon her. There would be at times when I would leave for classes when she had something planned, and she'd make a fuss about it, saying how selfish I was. I did not hear of any of this of Lookie or Steve were doing their thing, or even when they were gallivanting around, most of the time ignoring her, taunting at times. It was exasperating, and it took its toll on me. It was almost 2 years, and it proved to me, it went on for 2 years, and it proved to me that I could do college work at sustained level even though I was not carrying a full course load. The following summer I applied at the College of Buffalo and took their entrance exam for freshmen. I scored high enough to be accepted and was to enter that fall. When I returned at home from meeting with the college board, I was full of hope and exhilarated at the thought that I was finally going to do something constructive for myself. There was light at the end of the tunnel, in which I've been anticipating ever since I got out of the service. A new life was opening up for me, and I could not wait to give my 2-week notice of working where I was quitting. No more listening to conversations about basketball, shuffleboard, and no more shift work. No more dull, monotonous routine that was associated with it. I had broken out my barrier. My life was to begin anew. As I entered the hallway, I was quickly brought back to reality by a smell of hot water and bleach coming out of the basement. Why would there be hot water and bleach in the basement?
Hot water? There was a hot water tank downstairs.
As I entered the hallway, I quickly brought back to the reality by a smell of hot water and bleach coming out of the basement. I could hear the chug-chug of the metal cup agitators on the clothes washer. Mother was washing clothes, and she was furious. She had to make a fire in a small furnace at the bottom of the cellar stairs to heat the water. So even when you washed your clothes, you had to
heat the water.
You had to light a fire.
Yeah, had a little stove down there. Yeah.
And your mother was furious about this.
Yeah.
Are you the one that used to always start the fire for her?
Oh yeah.
So because you're going to school, that she became angry that you weren't there.
Well, see, there was too much conflict. All
right, let's see what happens next. As I entered the hallway, I was quickly brought back into reality by the smell of hot water and bleach coming out of the basement. I could hear the chug-chug of the metal cup agitators. What do you mean by metal cup agitators?
She had a wash machine with bars coming out. There was cups, 4 cups in the wash machine, and they turned and they went up and down. That's how the washing was done. The
Okay.
cups, instead of swirling it, the cups went up and down, just like you take some of the rubber. They did a good job. It got
did a good
clean.
job.
Yeah.
Was it as efficient as the modern washer?
Huh?
Was it as efficient as the washers you had at your laundromat?
No.
Where's that washer today?
Where's that washer? Who knows? In the junkyard someplace.
Junkyard. Did your mother use it often?
3 times a week.
And you had to heat up the water, right?
I had to heat the water up. That little stove down right in front of the stairs.
Weren't you afraid the house would catch on fire
Why?
by starting a fire?
No, that little stove was hooked up to the chimney.
Okay. Let's see what mother has.
And the stove never was stayed overnight because when she got through with it, I killed it off and that was it. The stove was only primarily there for the hot water for the laundry.
Okay, let me see where I left off here. Mother was washing the clothes, and she was furious that she had to make the fire in a small furnace at the bottom of the cellar stairs to heat the water. She went on about there being no kindling to start the fire and how much difficulty she had chopping some wood. I can't see her mother chopping wood. Did she actually chop the wood?
She didn't chop her hand off. Christ, come on.
You have a great sense of humor.
Huh?
You have a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Okay, she went on about her being no kindling to start the fire and how much difficulty she had in chopping some wood. I was oblivious to her ranting and blurted out that I passed the entrance exams and I will enroll in school in the fall. Immediately I realized that I had chosen the wrong time to share my good news with
that
my
was the
mother.
wrong thing to do.
Wrong time, right?
Yeah.
She's yelling because you're
I
not
see,
there.
right on the other side where the coal bed was, there's a whole pile of wood chopped up for the furnace, for the big
She didn't
furnace,
know
because
that?
it went out. But she didn't see that. I don't know, she didn't realize it.
Okay.
She just stepped over, put some wood in that little stove and lighted it up. But good thing she did, he probably burned the damn house down.
Burn the damn house down. Mother became furious, slamming the lid on the washing machine, raising her voice to a hysterical pitch, and stated that she was tired of doing everything around here and that everyone wanted to go to school and live off of her. I was taken back by that outburst and disappointed about her reaction to my news. So here you got great news, you passed the entrance exam, and your mother is irritated.
Putting the wet water on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that killed that deal.
All the rest of the day and into the evening, she kept a constant barrage up about me being inconsiderate and wanted to loaf about the house while she supported everybody. Naturally, Sally sided with her, and once again, I felt isolated and intimidated by their actions. Oh boy, what a mess that was. Both of them would give me the silent treatment. That silent treatment is kind of like your mother used to give to your father.
The what?
They give you the silent treatment, just like your mother,
Oh, yeah. She wouldn't talk or nothing.
like your mother would give to your father.
Yeah.
And like she gave to her brother, too. She
Yeah.
gave him the silent treatment.
Yeah.
Not talking to me directly, but would talk to one another, using me as a third person.
Well, see, that silent treatment never bothered Looky or Stevie.
Never bothered him.
They come home and they just no one will talk to them and everything else. They never bothered them. They say, what the hell's going on with them two? And they never understood or see
They
it.
could care less.
Yeah, they could care less, is right.
Okay, she talked to people through a third person, i.e., ask your brother if he's going to pick me up from work tomorrow, or will he be too busy? So your mother's asking her daughter to ask you, even though you're in the same room.
Yeah, that's the story.
Ask your brother if he's going to pick me up from work tomorrow, or will he be too busy? And you're not in the same room. Hold on 1 second. Hello?
Looky never picked you up, Stevie. Oh.
Yeah, what's up? I'm just reading my dad's book. Let me call you back in 10 minutes when I'm done. What? So, there was nothing going on, but she would ask, even though you're standing in the same room, she would ask your sister, ask your brother.
Yeah.
And then who would you have to answer to, your mother or your sister?
Sister.
Oh my God. Isn't life complicated enough? Holy shit. Where the hell am I now? Ask your brother if he's going to pick me up from work tomorrow, or will he be too busy? This would go on for days.
Now, see, if I told her I was going to school, I would be in school all day, and I wouldn't even have a job or nothing.
Oh, wow.
That would never work out. That never work it out.
That
No.
wouldn't go too well. Minutes?
Huh?
5.
So this would go on for days with no let-up on their part. This was the same type of treatment my late father received, with me siding with my mother on all issues. Now I was on the receiving end, and Sally was a collaborator. So when your father was alive, she'd give you the silent treatment, but your mother would ask you to ask your father.
Yeah.
So this went on forever.
Yeah.
And then finally your mother didn't want to talk anymore to your father, so
Close the door.
then she would go in the Packard and sleep.
And then we slept in the car in the garage.
And it was cold.
Yeah. In the Packard. We slept in the Packard.
That must have been really cold. So instead of your mother asking you to ask a father as a third party, now your mother's asking your sister to ask you.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is absolutely crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah, but she still made the meals.
You know, that's great. That's good news. That is really good news. The tactic frustrated me to no end, and I had no way of counteracting it. Looky would never get into the discussion, but he would just sneer when their subject was brought up. So what do you mean he would just sneer when?
What are you talking about? Christ's sake, I gotta go.
So he wouldn't want to solve any problems.
No.
He basically just did his own thing.
He was bored with all that shit, yeah. He didn't want to be bothered with that.
You said Looky would never get into discussion, but just sneer.
He had that Adeline after him. Adeline had a crush on him for a long time.
Okay.
And he was negative about it.
He didn't want to
He never made an effort to get with her or nothing. She liked him. I mean, I don't know what that was Adeline. She was another Polak, though.
Okay.
And she oh, Stevie, looky this, looky this, looky that.
So she really liked him.
Yeah.
But Looky didn't really care too much for her.
No.
Did he bring her home?
Huh?
Did your mother like her?
Adeline?
Yeah.
Well, actually, we never seen her that much because she never came to the house.
How come?
Well, figured we were too conflicting.
But I'm just trying to understand this. So you said Adeline wanted to go out with him.
Who?
Adeline wanted to go out with your brother, but your brother wasn't that interested.
Well, he had a car now, and he would take her for a ride, do this and that. But it was always her. She was this and that, and he says, "Look, he never had another girlfriend or nothing."
That was it. But at that time, when she wants to go out with him, did he stop drinking?
I drank when she was with him.
Even then?
Yeah.
Did she go to the bars with him?
I imagine she wouldn't sit in the car.
And did it was very unusual for a female to be smoking then. She was smoking then too?
She was smoking then, yeah.
Do you think they met in a bar?
Because my mother used to put a sign of no smoking.
Do you think they met in a bar?
Huh?
Do you think they met in a bar? How'd they meet?
How did they meet?
In a bar?
Look, Adeline knew Looky for a long time. I think they went to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They went to high school.
Okay, like childhood sweethearts.
Sugar Street School,
Yes.
Diaper Street School.
Okay. So she lived locally in a Polish neighborhood.
Yeah.
Did you know her mothers and father?
Huh?
Did you know her mother and father?
Oh yeah, but I never went to their house, never had supper there, and that nothing. I see them on the street, I say hi, and that's it.
Okay.
They never asked me nothing, how to drive anywhere. They knew I had a car.
But you said a lot of people in that neighborhood that were either Polish or Italian and some Greeks. Did they speak with a broken accent too, Adeline and her mother and father?
This first generation, yeah.
So her mother and father spoke with a broken accent.
When they didn't speak English at home. I told my sons we're going to speak American here, we're not going to speak Polak.
So I think your father...
I remember that Belinsky had an accent because they talked Polish at home.
Minutes?
30 seconds.
So that was interesting. Your father, when the kids were young, he said, we're only going to speak English here.
Yeah.
And so you used the example of Belinsky, where he was a next-door neighbor, and he only spoke Polish at home.
Yeah, and Belinsky had a Polish accent because he was talking Polak at home.
Oh, okay, that's understandable as well.